This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, good morning. So let's continue our session about adapters. In the previous session, we saw how to insert the data into database tables, right? We enhanced our file adapters example and we inserted some data into a table as well. That's what we discussed in the previous session, right? So I want to talk about few more operations, few more important operations in database, a database adapter. Okay, not just the insert operation. We can discuss more other operations as well. So, but before I talk about other operations, I need to talk about one important concept in adapters. Okay, so that is about transaction. DBAdapter transaction. So there are two types of transactions we can experience with DB adapters. Okay, XA enabled adapters, and number two, non-XA enabled adapter. So there are two types of behaviors we can observe in any adapter. For example, if you take DB adapter, you can see two types of behaviors: XA enabled adapter, non-XA enabled adapter. You can see this behavior with the DB adapter, JMS adapter, AQ adapter. Okay, we'll talk about one by one, but now we are talking about DB adapter, right? In DB adapter, how it is different? What is this XA enabled adapter and what is non-XA enabled adapter? Non-XA adapter, not enabled, non-XA adapter. That's it. Okay. So what is the main difference between these two things? Okay, let's see. I have a web service. I have one web service. Let's assume. No need to be web service. It can be anything. I'm taking web service as an example. Okay. So this web service accepts the input. This web service sends the response back. Okay. So from this web service, let's assume internally we are calling, or let me simplify it. Okay. So what I will do, I'm internally calling 3 DB adapters. 3 DB adapters. Just an example. It's not only restricted to DB adapter because we are talking about DB adapter. So I'm giving the example with DB adapter. Okay. So I'm using DB adapter 1, DB adapter 2, and DB adapter 3. Okay. Now we have 3 DB adapters in this people. So it is communicating with the database, doing something. Let's assume it is inserting the data into a table or some action it is performing. Okay. Now what happened? Every DB adapter we will use JNDI, correct? We use JNDI here in every DB adapter. So this JNDI gives you different behavior. XA adapter and non-XA adapter. What will happen? So how this JNDI will be configured? First, we will configure data source JNDI, correct? Data source JNDI, and then we will configure DB adapter JNDI. Okay. So how it will behave? DB adapter JNDI behaves like a alias name of data source JNDA, correct? So this is some example. We already configured a data source JNDA, right? What is the data source JNDA we configured? This is the one. Okay. And this is the DB adapter JNDA we configured. Okay. So, but if you observe here, this guy, DB adapter JNDI is an alias name of data source JNDA. I mean, you can configure multiple DB adapter JNDIs for one data source JNDI. Okay, it is allowed. But at the time of JNDI configuration, data source JNDI configuration, at the time of data source JNDI configuration, we have two options. I shown you on that day, there are two types of drivers: thin driver, thin XA driver. Thin driver, thin XA driver. So there are two types of drivers we have: thin driver and number 2 thin XA driver. Okay, guys, this is very important. According to the driver, suppose if you select thin driver at the time of data source configuration, and you have a DBAdapter JNDI as an alias name of data source JNDI, okay, then if you use this JNDI, in your program, that adapter becomes non-XA adapter. If you use thin driver in the configuration, it becomes non-XA adapter. This is non-XA, this is XA. Okay, this is XA, and this is first the thin driver is non-XA, thin XA driver is XA JNDI. I mean, if you use thin driver, your adapter behaves as a non-XA JNDI. If you use XA driver, thin XA driver, your adapter behaves as a XA adapter. Any question? Any question? Is it clear? At the time of data source JNDI configuration, it will be decided. At the time of data source JNDI configuration, it will be decided. If you use thin driver, your adapter is a non-XA adapter. If you use thin XA driver, your adapter is a XA adapter. Okay, what is the difference? If we use thin driver or if we use thin XA driver, how it will be different? Is there any difference in the program? Configuration wise, there is no difference, guys. Configuration wise, there is no difference. You can see the difference at the time of failure. Okay, I mean, let's assume here we have XA. Let's assume this is an XA JNDI, and here also I have XA JNDI. Here also I have XA JNDI. Okay, and let's just assume that by using the first adapter, I'm inserting the data into a table. By using second adapter, I'm inserting the data into second table. By using third DBAdapter, I'm inserting the data into third table. Okay, just assume the use case. Okay, now for some reason there is an error happened. In the program. This is one invocation. This is another second invocation, third invocation. Let's assume after this DBAdapter, we got some, we have some activities. Okay, for some reason something was failed. Let's assume this activity is errored for some reason. Whatever may be the activity, this guy errored out. In this use case, observe the use case, 3 DBAdapters, all are using XA JNDI. After DBAdapter, there is one error in your program. I'm not using any catch-all branches. I'm not using any fault framework in this program. This is the current situation of the program. Okay, and this activity is errored out. Once the activity is errored out, what happened? The whole program transaction will be rolled back. I mean, when the program started, it will have, let's assume this program will start a transaction called T1, and each DBAdapter will have a transaction, will have one new transaction. Okay, let's assume the transaction is T2, this is T3, and this is T4. Okay, so how it will work? We have T1. Is the main transaction. Under T1 we have T2, T3, and T4. So what happened? These three transactions behave as child transaction of T1. Okay, in T1 is the total your web service transaction. In T1, if we got any error at any place and it is not handled by using any exception handling mechanism, okay, that means here I don't have any catch all or fault framework, then what happened? The total transaction will be rolled back. The total transaction will be rolled back means T2, T4, T3, T2, everything will be rolled back. That is the behavior of XCA transaction. That means what happened if it is rolled back, then what happened? See, our first invoke activity completed. What is the expectation from this DB adapter? We are inserting the data into table. Second DB adapter, we are inserting the data into second table. Third DB adapter, we are inserting the data into third table. Now, if we got an error, what happened? Even though the data already inserted into table, everything will be rolled back. Your data, even though already inserted, you cannot see the data in the table. That will be rolled back because we are using XAJNDI. So the behavior of XAJNDI is it will perform two-phase commit. It will perform two-phase commit. Okay, this is something called two-phase commit. Two-phase commit. That means when the invoke activity inserts the data into table, calling the DB adapter and inserts the data into table, that is level 1 commit, first level of commit. Okay, but it's not a permanent commit. It is not a permanent commit. Now, second DB also will perform the same thing, first level of commit. Third DB also performs the first level of commit. Okay, and if T1 process, the complete web service executed without any errors. If the complete web service executed without any errors, then all these adapters will perform second level of commit. In two phases the commit will be happened. First phase of commit is temporary commit, and second phase of commit is permanent commit. Okay, if there are no errors in T1 transaction, all DB adapter transactions will perform second level of commit. Then data will be permanently committed into the table. Is it clear, everybody? Suppose in T1, if is there any error happened and the error was not handled, make sure guys, if the error was not handled, you need to have a note on this point. If the error was not handled, your error thrown to WebLogic server, and WebLogic server will roll back all the sub-transactions. So T2, T3, T4 are sub-transactions of T1. They will be rolled back. That means whatever data already inserted into table will be rolled back. So you cannot see the data in the table. So this is the default behavior of XAJNDI. XAJNDI which performs two-phase commit. Okay. Suppose if you are using non-XAJNDI, okay, in all adapters you are using non-XAJNDI. In that case, guys, sorry, non-XAJNDI. So if you use non-XAJNDI in your program, then what happened? These transactions will behave as individual transactions. T1, T2, T3, T3, T4. Now what happened? They are not, there is no parent transaction and child transaction here. Each transaction behaves as an individual transaction, and they will not check for the other transaction. What happened to other transaction, they will not take care. Okay, that means the same use case if you consider, by using non-XAJNDI in your DB adapter, and there is an error happened in the program in T1, some error happened and a raised error, but by the time your T2 already committed, T3 already committed, T4 already committed. Okay, so even though T1 errored out, it will not roll back T2, T3, T4 if you are using non-XAJNDI. Any question? Any question? So XAJNDIs participate in the parent transaction. Non-XAJNDIs will work as an individual transaction. They don't depend on other transactions. They don't take care of what happened to the overall process, what happened to the other transactions in this BPL process. They will not consider. Okay, if the program errored out, of course it is errored out, but the DBAdapter commit, it already performed a permanent commit. Any questions as of now? Okay, if no questions, let me go to the next combination. Let's say I have XAJNDI and this is non-XAJNDI. This is XAJNDI. We are using this combination, let's assume. Now we got an error. We got an error in the program. Okay, now what happened? XAJNDIs will participate in the parent transaction. Non-XAJNDI will not participate in the parent transaction. That means something like this. If you see, T1 is the parent, which contains T2 as a child transaction. T3 is not a child transaction. T4 as a child transaction of T1. T4 as a child transaction of T1. Got it? I mean, this is not participating in T1. T3, it is working individually. It is working individually. Okay, so then what happened if we got some error in the BPL process? XAJNDI DB adapters will be rolled back. Non-XAJNDI DB adapter will be permanently commits the data. It permanently commits the data. Is it clear? Okay, so XA driver, XA, this non-XA JNDI will participate in one-phase commit. XA JNDI will participate in two-phase commit. Any questions from anyone? Any question from anyone?
No, sir.
No? Okay, so you can do one practice. You can do an assignment for this, guys. Same example, you can create a web service, accept some data, accept one order information, one record. Okay, order ID, item ID. Okay, you can do this assignment. Let me give you the use case. Create a web service which insert data into 3 tables. Okay, right. So I want one-way web service. One-way web service. Okay, I mean, I'm not expecting any response. It is one way. That means I'm not expecting any response. So it will contains only request. Okay. So let's say order request is my complex element. Under that, order ID, customer ID, customer name, item cost, item name, okay, address which contains city, state. Okay, this is my request. Okay, so now what I want to do, I want to insert the data into 3 tables, I said, right? So table 1, it contains fields, order ID, customer ID, customer name. Okay, table 1. Table 2, order ID, item name, item cost. Table 3, order ID, city, state. Okay, so this is the format I'm expecting. You create 3 tables, and once your web service accepts the input, only insert the required data. First table, insert 3 fields. Second table, insert 3 fields. Third table, insert 3 fields. That's it. Let's accept only one record, just one record. Okay. Now, so Try this example with different JNDA. So before starting this example assignment, what you need to do, configure uh, data source with thin driver. Okay, configure DBJNDA. You know how to configure this part, right? You know how to configure data source JNDA, how to configure DBAdapter JNDA. Okay, now this is one JNDA, one set of data, and configure data source with thin driver, configure DBJNDA. So you need to ready with these two things, two different JNDAs. One is XA JNDA, another is non-XA JNDA. I mean, this is XA JNDA, and this one is non-XA JNDA, Okay. So once you are ready in this program, in this web service program, you configure three different adapters, right, to insert the data. So test the program with XAJNDAs and non-XAJNDAs and observe the results. I mean, first use XAJNDA in all the examples, in all the adapters. I mean, if you go to adapter, see here we have a JCA file. For every adapter, we have a JCA file, right? At the time of configuration, adapter configuration, you provide the JNDA details here. At the time of adapter configuration, first time you provide the JNDA details here. But after that, if you want to change, what you can do, the best way is go to the JCA file. If you go to the JCA file, here you can see the JNDA name. Location is the JNDA name. So what you can do, you can replace this. Non-XA JNDA and XA JNDA by replacing it. Observe the program behavior, how it is behaving. Okay, first test your program, all XA JNDIs and no errors. All XA JNDIs and no errors. What is the behavior of the program? Is the program inserting the data into tables or not? Then replace this JNDI, replace all DBAdapter JCA files with non-XA JNDI, no errors. Just test your program, observe whether your program is inserting the data or not. Okay, so this is success flow. We tested. Now we need to test error flow. Okay, what you will do for error flow, just drop a table, drop table 3 in your database, delete this table. Okay, then what happened when you are testing your program, your invoke activity will fail. Third invoke activity will fail. So when you are using XAJNDAs, what is the behavior of your program? When we got an error, okay, and place non-XAJNDAs and make sure table 3 is failed, table 3 is deleted and error raised. And what is the behavior of first and second adapter, whether it is inserting the data or not inserting the data. Intentionally we are creating some error here by deleting the third table, okay, and observing behavior of non-XA adapter and behavior of XA adapter. So the same program you can use, to deploy and test. Is it clear? Any questions in the assignment? Guys, do you need any clarification? Can you please confirm?
Clear, sir.
Requirement is clear, guys. So guys, if you do this, you will definitely gain some knowledge. Okay, but you need to do it. If I just simply explain, you don't get the experience. You have to do the example. Okay, so what you can do, it's very simple. First, design the web service. Deploy it as version 1.0. Okay, use all XAJNDAs. Deploy your program with the version 1.0. Okay, and then modify the JNDAs with the non-XA JNDA. Open 3 JCF files, replace the XA JNDA with non-XA JNDA, and deploy the program as 2.0. Now you have your SOA server contains two web services, 1.0 and 2.0. 1.0 is using XAJNDA, 2.0 is using non-XAJNDA. Okay, and the third combination you can use as 3.0. One is XA, one is non-XA. Like that, you can keep it and deploy 3.0. Okay, total 3 versions of program you can deploy, and then drop the third table. Drop the third table. Once you drop the third table, test all 3 versions of your program and observe what are the results. I mean, whether the data inserted, not inserted, you observe and let me know. Is it clear? Any question? Any question? Okay, so complete this assignment, guys. Complete this assignment, and we'll discuss on top of it. I mean, if you have any questions when you are doing the assignment, you can immediately call me or ping me. I suggest you to contact me in WhatsApp. Okay, so let me know if you stuck at any place. So this is about XA and non-XA JNDIs. What is the time now? Okay, so guys, in DBAdapter, there is an important operation called DB polling. DB polling. Okay, under this DB polling, we have two variants. Physical delete polling, and logical delete polling. So DB polling is something like your file read adapter. So what file read adapter is doing? The 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 main difference, the main advantage of file read adapter is it is a self-start adapter. A regular web service and a file read adapter, they are different, right? A regular web service, there must be a client. Client need to hit the input. Once the client hit the input, then only web service will be initiated and execute the business logic, send the response back. But DBAdapter with read operation is a self-start adapter. File adapter with the read operation is a self-start adapter. It will not wait for the client. In the file adapter, we have a property called polling frequency. Right? If you set it for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 1 hour, 1 week, 1 day, 1 year, whatever the polling frequency you configure, based on the polling frequency, your file adapter read operation will start by its own. It's a kind of scheduled program. It will start by its own according to the polling period we configure. Okay. So what your file adapter will do? It will start according to the file polling property and go to the inbound folder and check is there any file available to read. If any file available to read, it will read the data and continue the program. If there is no file in the inbound folder, your file adapter will not do anything, but it will start and verify the inbound folder for file. It's a self-start program. Similarly, DBAdapter also contains an operation called DB polling. Okay, so if you configure this operation, your DBAdapter will, based according to the polling frequency, your DBAdapter will search the records in a table. Is it clear? You understand what is the DB polling operation? It works like your file read adapter operation, file adapter with read operation. Same functionality we can achieve by using DB polling as well. It's a self-start program. According to the polling frequency, it will start by its own and read the data from a table and continue the program. That means it's a service component like file adapter with read operation. Okay, the current example, whatever we saw, is not a, see, if you see this is DBAdapter in the reference component, it's not self-start adapter. Okay, but if you configure the DBAdapter at the service side, then it is a service component and it's a self-start adapter, and you need to select the operation called polling operation. How to do that, we'll see. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to do an example to explain different types of DB polling operations. First, I want to talk about physical delete polling. For this, I want to do an example. what I want to do, I have a student info table. From this student info table, from here, I want a SOA program. Who reads the data by using DBAdapter polling operation and insert the processed data into another table called student result table. Okay, I want to read the data from this table, do some data processing in your SOA program, and insert the data into student result. I mean, I need two tables to do this example. Okay, two tables. So let me create two tables. What I want to do, okay, already we have this table, right? Let me create another table as well. I will name it as student result. Here I will use, I don't want all this stuff. I just want total marks, and then I want a grade. Okay. Okay, two. Okay, so I want two tables. This is the source table. This is the target table. In between source table and target table, I want to keep a SOA program. So what are all the components I need to define here? I need to define a service component, which is DB polling adapter. Okay, this will communicate with a BPEL component, and BPEL will communicate with DB insert adapter. Okay, so this is my requirement. Any questions? In the requirement? This is reference component. Clear, guys? This is the requirement I have. Let me know if anybody is not clear with the requirement. Okay, so I will stop here. Let me stop the recording.